The Scottish elections are tomorrow. In my last video, I told you that you should probably go, if you're eligible, you should probably go vote in them in order to represent the interests of your group in society. However, today I'm going to go one step further and say who I'm going to vote for. Now, of course, there are two ballots in the Scottish election. You get your constituency ballot and your regional ballot. In your constituency ballot, you only get a few options. You tend to be able to vote for the Tories, Reform, the SNP, the Lib Dems, and Labour. I don't particularly want to vote for any of them, so in my constituency, I'm going to be voting for a minor candidate. On the regional list, you get a much wider option with lots and lots of parties, which most of whom aren't going to get any representation. And I'm going to vote for one of these parties. It's called the Scottish Socialist Party, and I personally recommend you vote for them too. They have the best record on anti-austerity politics, fighting for high-quality public services and benefits that benefit everyone, paid for through actual proper taxes on the rich, not the Greens as like wealth tax that will raise almost no money, proper wealth tax, proper high levels of capital gains tax, high levels of the highest bands of income tax, scrapping the council tax, which is regressive, and replacing it with more progressive forms of taxation, and alongside other policies like properly doing something about the environment through investing in the green transition to create more jobs and industry in nationalised, that is, worker-controlled industries, which is going to be far better than our current privatised situation of privatised fossil fuels, where all of the money goes abroad. We want a situation where we have MSPs who are paid the same as the average worker. So every party, except the Scottish Socialist Party, when elected, would take the full MSP salary. It's like more than 70 grand. This means that politicians are just like really out of touch. We don't do this. We would, any socialist MSP would take the average skilled worker's wage, which is like 30 grand a year-ish, which is far more in touch with like reasonable amounts. It would also look in the long term to campaign for things like lesser working hours, so a 4-day working week instead of a 5-day working week without reduction in pay, improved minimum wage, which I think is really important, just to get, you know how the Tories always say make work pay, increase the minimum wage, that's how you make work pay, and pushing to massively expand the construction of council homes, which would do at least something to reduce the pressures of the housing crisis, although to really do that you need to look at definancialising the housing sector. Also pushing for things like deprivatising the NHS and ending private finance initiative contracts, which have basically seen billions in the Scottish budget leaked to the private sector. The SSP would also look to end arms subsidies, which are done by the Scottish government as well as the UK government in subsidising genocide in the Middle East. This is done by the Scottish government through things like subsidising arms manufacturers in Edinburgh Festival, and by keeping Prestwick Airport open, where it's used to refuel American jets, which are then sent to help with the genocide. Generally, like, bad, I think we can probably say. So these are some of the reasons I'm voting for the SSP. Now you'll notice that, as I said, the Scottish Socialist Party are unlikely to get a seat. It's not impossible, but it's incredibly unlikely. So why am I voting for them anyway? Well, the real answer is that I want to pull the rest of the mainstream politics towards a position where we are more anti-austerity, where we fight for the things for the policies which I've very briefly outlined. And so by voting for a more radical party, that pulls the more moderate parties in that direction. Now, polling suggests the likelihood is that we're going to have a SNP minority government which is backed by the Greens or otherwise an SNP Green coalition. Those are the two most likely outcomes, with an SNP majority also possible. In each of these cases, these are parties who would gain the votes if the SSP didn't stand. So they are going to try and win those votes back from the SSP by moving into the SSP's territory. Therefore, the more votes the SSP get, even if they don't get a seat, brings those parties close to that position. And this is really important because we really need anti-austerity politics. We really need politics that makes housing affordable, that makes our wages high enough, that does all of these things, that rejects corruption, all of the things I've said, in order to build a better Scotland. Because as much as the 50 leaflets I've got from Labour and Reform that tell me that Scotland is broken, sure, to some extent that's true. Let's fix it, but let's fix it with anti-austerity politics. Thanks for listening. Obviously, not every viewer is going to agree with this, so if you don't agree, please tell me why I'm wrong in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.